welcome to the Hard AV Podcast. My name is Joe Way, and I am your host. And boy, do we have a good one for you today. I'm really excited, but I go through this phase where I just have people that I've known for a while, and we always talking on the higher ed happy hours doing this, and you realize, wait a minute. You haven't been on the show and had a real conversation with me yet. And so I want to talk about a spur of the moment recording. We did this on Friday. Like, hey, we're scheduling this during the happy hour and here we are on a Monday morning. And I'm really, really excited about this, everybody. So with no further ado, everyone's favorite part of the show, I stop talking and our guest does. And James, welcome to the show. Please tell people who you are and what you do.
Cool. First off, thanks for having me. And my name is James Scoggins, and I work at Grayson College, a small college just north of Dallas. And I don't know, I guess, really what I do is I help teachers make sure they have the equipment to do what they do. That's really what we do.
Yeah. And so how big is your department there? Where do you kind of sit with the rest of the team?
Well, I live in the IT department, and we have a total of 6 on the infrastructure side, and then we have another group in the IT department that's on the software side. But as far as the infrastructure side, AV is included on the infrastructure side. So it's like 6 of us, and we kind of get it done.
Okay, that's okay. I always think this is like my favorite questions are to ask people, like, because there's so many dynamics, right? Between when you hear like, the one-man band departments to the handful and what the scope is, and then you got the other, like me, and I'm like, I got 38,
Yeah.
it's
Well,
just
but also you're dealing with a whole lot more campuses than I am.
true that. I think that there's everything. The only thing that changes is kind of size, right? Like I always say, my line is, we all have the same problems and same issues. Just, some of us have more zeros, right? At the end of
Right.
it, so you might get a lot more good things, but you also got to pile on the bad things that come with it, right?
Absolutely. And you just hope that the good things and the bad things weigh themselves out and everything comes out in a positive direction.
I mean, you do hope that.
Always the hope.
You do hope that. So, all right. So you have been there for a while, if I'm not mistaken. Like,
Yes. I think
n-
this is year 17.
wow. All right. So walk us through, how did you kind of get your start through the industry, and how did you end up kind of into where you are and then becoming a lifer?
Well, it's kind of funny. I went to school here. Like I was looking for something else to do. I was working fast food. I was like, man, I just need to do something else. So
Mhm.
I decided, hey, I'll check Grayson out. So I went out here and found the theater department on accident. Stumbled in one day. They were doing stuff backstage, and I was like, oh, I'd like to be involved with that. So jumped in, got my degree in theater, went and did some other things, got really heavily involved in sound for a while. And then I was like, I'd really like to go home.
Mm.
And coming back to here and taking this position, I was really, hey, I would really like to be doing something for my community. And I've
Mhm.
really just had that opportunity to do that since then.
Yeah, I love that. It's funny how we all kind of come back around. It sounds very similar to my background, right? And I spent most of my time in live entertainment, and but I loved and I actually got my start, mixing sound at SC, and years later I went right back there, right? And then, even though I've left since then, but still, it's like coming back to kind of where that investment was made is just, so rewarding, so rewarding.
Yeah, and being able to like have some kind of influence in the community where it's like, oh, like I'm really playing a small part and I'm working this background angle, but in my mind it's like if that means my community gets smarter, awesome.
Mhm. I love that. I love that. So that is one of the things. So how big is the school itself?
I think we got like 4,500 students.
Okay, so that's still pretty decent.
We're good
Um,
size.
yeah, that's. I mean,
We
I
have
think.
we have 2 campuses. We have our main campus in Denison, and then we have another campus at Van Alstine, which is like 20 minutes south of here.
Okay, that's still. I mean, I think technically anything over 5,000 is considered large school by
All
the
right, on.
definition. See, so and so I think one of the things I love about like kind of, like you said, giving back into the community is some schools just have such a unique investment into the local who they are. They become an identity of that community that they're based in. Which I often you don't see in a lot of like the large R1s, the kind of the names,
Hmm.
because you're made up of so many people who go there. Like half the school might be from within a couple of hours and the rest could be all international and all over, so you don't have that same community connection. So how does that kind of impact your daily work?
Well, that's a good question. I'm really not sure. I don't know that I've thought about it.
Well, all right, so let me flip it a different way then. That was a good question. You're supposed to have an answer for that. Right, so
Right on.
no, the no, but to flip it a different way, like, so when you're, as opposed to, do you have more students that are obviously local there? Are they more transient? And how does that change what the types of things they're asking for?
Well, we have, I guess it's a nice mix. We do have some like from afar, I guess, but a lot of those are like baseball people, and that's how they get in. But the majority of our students are local, and
And
we have a really large community in our like it's a I can't think of the name of the program, but it's with our high schools.
oh,
Dual credit, that's what it's called, dual credit. So they also receive credit here while taking some classes at high school, and our instructors actually go to the high school to teach the classes.
well, that's kind of cool. See, that's a good gateway. Makes a good gateway drug into people continuing
Right,
through, right?
and they tend to stick around to finish at least degrees at the 2-year school, which is awesome.
Hmm. And so your school, it is a 2 year, so it's considered the
Yes,
community college
we
within, right?
we we did just start a bachelor's program in nursing, and we're about to build within the next few years a brand new ridiculous facility that we're really all excited about to replace our nursing um, classrooms and things.
Oh, nice, nice. It's funny because I've been having conversations lately, especially with, kind of the community college and in higher ed. Obviously, we're going through kind of, I'll call it an identity crisis, of, some of it being political of what people even think is their value in college anymore. You've got the idea, obviously, enrollment, and the enrollment cliff, and just people going to start, life later. It's changing. So I've been thinking, like, obviously I love being where I'm at and all, but I think this is where there's the most kind of, I don't want to say bang for the buck or opportunity, or best way to say it, in those community colleges, because you're actually teaching trades. Right. And I think we're
Right.
seeing that shift, especially with the, when people are leaving schools with hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt. Well, you can go to somewhere and actually learn a trade and be making hundreds of thousands of dollars to start out with, and at 20 something years old, you know?
See, and I also wonder, because I just don't know, are there opportunities there for AV people? You know what
Well,
I mean? For that
yeah.
education piece.
Well, absolutely. I mean, I think we become an essential part of it, right? I mean, we know technology is not going anywhere. We become an essential part of kind of who they are and preparing them, right? I mean, I know,
Right.
a lot of times, especially, you don't always get people who, maybe they didn't come from a high school that was tech savvy or all of that, but you're going to go into a business world that is, and you have to know those things, and you have to be able to adapt and know, hey, you got to become hireable, right? And I think that's one of the
Right.
best things about schools that teach trades and everything, and just kind of teach the life skills, because that's exactly what's needed, right? So now, so talk to me now about your day to day. So what are you said you have a big building, you have all this. What are the technologies you're looking at? What is kind of, how does your school's philosophy go with those types of things?
Well, we have pretty much, I guess, standard, I would say, classroom spaces, but we're moving towards making sure every classroom has cameras, making sure that, that whole distance thing can happen. And we're kind of right there in the space, but we're leaning really heavily on our communications platform, just because it's, hey, you got to pick one.
Mm-hmm.
And then, once you pick that platform, you kind of have to stick with it. I mean, I know everybody uses different of the platforms, but uh, I know that that's one of the toughest things is being able to pick that provider and be able to
And,
get right
and
into doing that.
what have you gone with, and what's making those
Um, we're
decisions?
we're leaning heavily on Zoom and Zoom rooms,
Yep.
just because the control piece is starting to come in on the touch panels, and
Hmm.
and I know it's really early at this point, but I also know that when you're chasing product, it's tough when like our say our rotation schedule as far as like re-up in rooms, we average about 8 to 10 years
Oh
before
wow.
you get to the next re-up cycle, which is kind of tough, but that's about the time that things are really starting to wear out.
Hmm. Yep.
But day to day, we're dealing with digital signage. We're making sure that all the classrooms are good. Yay! That's the fun part.
No tickets
'Cause
are good. No are good tickets. No tickets are
yes,
good tickets.
yes, less tickets are better
Yep.
because I know pretty much, and I don't know about philosophy for everyone out there, but I know that my philosophy is, and it's because of theater. If you don't notice us, that's winning.
Hmm.
Like if you come in, you use your equipment, and everything works, you don't have to put anything. Man, that is my pride day.
Yep. 100%, 100%. And it's funny. It's always one of those things we talked about that. In theater and live events and stuff is like we're the thankless job, right? And even
Absolutely.
though we know that's important, right? Because that means everything went fine and the customer and the all that got exactly what they need, and we delivered that A plus service. On the flip side, then no one knows it, so you get no notice that you are actually important.
Right. But man, for me, that not notice that, I don't know. I guess it's a nice razor as far as that goes. Wow, didn't
Hmm.
expect that to make my
Uh-oh.
day.
We got a classroom call. Do we get to take a classroom call live on the show? Because those are always the fun ones.
No, that's somebody trying to sell me something, I'm sure.
I had that happen. One show, Natalie at Northwestern
But
had a call come in, and that was great. And we did it. We took it right live, right on the
that's
show.
awesome.
Why not? That's because that's our life, right? We never know what's going to be the next thing to kind of happen.
Right. Like anytime, like even today, like the only way I went to make sure that I wouldn't get any eruptions today, I never shut my door, but my door is shut today.
Uh oh. Okay, so open door policy person.
Yes.
Talk it through. So, because that's a big dilemma. Like open door, shut door. That's a fitty. So, what's your? I'm assuming it has to do with the way you view your team, you view your customer. So, walk that through.
Yeah. Well, luckily I have an excellent team. We are small, but we all just like if if I need help or if one of the other guys needs help, we just do what we can to make sure that end of the day everything gets done.
Yeah.
And that's the tough thing, and because you end up juggling schedules a little bit sometimes because nobody knew that we were going to need near as much help.
Hmm.
Oops. Which that's always the fun time when you're trying to scramble at the last minute to make something happen, but we try to make sure that doesn't occur very often.
Yep. 100%.
Well, they
100%.
say trying to plan. The planning is way more important sometimes.
Yes. And especially I mean, when you have, like I like to say, those small but mighty teams, right? Which I'm assuming that means you all have to end up getting cross trained in everything. You have
Yes,
less of a specialist and then more of generalists, right?
right. Not only am I do I make sure that I take care of all the AV, I also have some um, software um, management responsibilities, I guess, because I am the administrator for Zoom, and we have Zoom phones.
Mm.
So that piece is rather large,
Oh,
which
I can
takes up a
imagine.
which since I took that over, that takes up a whole lot of my week.
Nothing like having other duties as assigned end up becoming
Oh,
one of the major parts of your work, right?
yeah, it's always fun when it becomes a major, like when you say, "Oh, how do I add an additional 20% to my work week?" I was like, oh, that's awesome. But hey, we'll figure it out.
See, no wonder you need the higher ed happy hours every
Hey,
that's the release, right?
absolutely. And I'll tell you, having those happy hours and having those types of get together type things, and being able to talk out like that, and being able to get with other people that are doing what we do, I can't say enough positive things about the impact that that has.
Yeah, totally agree. So well, talk about that because I think I'm gonna agree with you because I think that's that one of and I've said this before. Well, we're all the same, like you and I. We're doing the same things, but you're in Texas, I'm in California. But the fact is, often in our campuses, we're siloed, right? We're this
Right.
little thing, and we don't get that cross. So to have that outside community where you can have those conversations, talk about how that has impacted you and helped you.
Well, like I can give you a really a silly little example. Somebody had mentioned, and I won't mention names, but somebody had mentioned that they were dealing with something in their AV world that was rather odd, and I was like, really? Well, what's that? And what she had told me was that the AV team was responsible for replacing chalk, and I went, wow, I can't even imagine that. I thought I had some problems. Like, I'm mad about replacing batteries, and man, I don't have to deal with markers and all of this thing. And I'm like, oh wow, y'all are responsible for markers and chalk also? Man,
Yeah,
that's crazy to me. But saying that, it was just that whole being able to have a conversation with someone else about, hey, there are things that are weird that happen differently here, there, and everywhere. And like, that whole being able to understand each other, I guess, that being able to go, oh, that happens in your world too, huh? And
yep.
like you said, with the silo business, we get none of that with each other here because it's not the same issues.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely, and I think that is kind of hearing that and being able to have a platform where you can kind of I don't like the word vent, but share and discuss, and I
Share's
think
good.
getting insight, right? Like you said, others who do the chalk and the markers, like so same thing we do. So it's like it's interesting. Like at SC, we were called learning environment. So we were control of the whole thing of, the whiteboards to the markers to the everything to making sure the learning environment is equipped. Yes,
Right.
we're the AV department, but our job was make sure the learning environment was equipped. And it's funny now here, I don't have that, but I'm trying to get it because I saw the value of it. And people are like, I can't, so now I'm sitting in meetings picking out acoustical tiles and colors of, wheels and things on things. I'm going, when did this become the AV job? But it's so important. I think just, to the like fluidity of the room. I don't know, lack of better words.
Right.
You know?
Well, you're lucky that you get to get in on that conversation about acoustical tile and those things, because sometimes that's, depending on where you're at, those things get determined by builders only.
Mm-hmm. Well,
And
and
then
I
and then you come in with the AV system, and it's like, oh, okay, these people didn't even talk to each other. Now, how are we going to fix it?
Yep, 100%. And the thing is, I think that's one of the things that, and I hear that from, as I interview people or, when we talk to, I hear that is one of the biggest, if you were to say complaints or frustrations is hey, we're left out of the conversation. That's changing a bit more now, a better, but still those types of things. Cause like go back to what you were saying, the direction you're moving, like with Zoom rooms and stuff.
Right.
Well, Zoom is a natural collaboration platform, not just
Yes.
a distance learning platform or a hybrid or recording or capture platform. It's really intended to be a collaborative platform. Well, that
Right.
means we're no longer just doing talking head facing the front of the room. Flexible furniture becomes part of it.
Yep.
Writing surfaces become part of it, right? I think those are things that now to think about. And now there are every demographic now is tech savvy, so now we have to be part of that.
Right. And part of that thought process for us was, in the classroom, we would keep getting questions, and over the last few years or so, it's, can I add this to the classroom, or can I use this instead? Can I just walk around the class with my iPad? These sort of things. And it was like, how do I facilitate that with these older systems? And it's like, oh,
Hmm.
well, probably the best way to do that is, instead of trying to come up with some weird interface to plug your thing in or whatever, why not just all do it in a meeting, make everything a meeting, and then no matter what your device is, you can join and show the thing on the screen.
100%, 100%. And it's funny how people thought I was crazy back in 2019 when I said that to everyone. Huh.
Yeah,
See,
nobody,
now look at that.
they don't want to touch, hey, nobody wants to touch somebody else's stuff,
Hmm.
right? So like, if you can be able to walk into a room, and now they even have in some situations where you can do it totally by asking. Like, the
Yep.
microphone is ready, so you can say, we can walk in the room and say, hey, join, and then call out the meeting number, and
Yep.
no one has to touch anything.
Yep. And a lot of this, I mean, the thing is, these platforms, and I'll take Zoom, I mean, they're not a sponsor of the show, but you know what, Zoom, if you're listening, please reach out
Hey,
to me. No, but I think about that, like, even back, because I think about, this, like I said, even if I go back to 2019 when I took the entire SD campus and made it Zoom rooms, and people thought I was crazy. Like, why would you do that? Now look at that. I mean, no one planned a pandemic and all that stuff. But what's interesting, see, back then it was a neat idea for other reasons, collaboration, recording, things like that, wireless sharing without having to have a wireless sharing box, those things. But if you fast forward, the platforms have gotten really good. Not that they
yes.
weren't back then, like you're saying right now, because we're now 6 years later.
Well, and they're
And
adding features every day. Like,
exactly.
all of the platforms are.
Yep, 100%. That wouldn't have been possible. But like you said, simple things like, like the voice control. If you walk into a Zoom room and go, "Hey Zoom, please start meeting, blah 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 blah." Well, that also helps with accessibility. It's not even just a cool factor, something to have. Now you're helping accessibility. These things become more sustainable when you don't have all the boxes. Like, there are huge things that just become a better solution for everybody.
Well, and I'm hoping that the rest of the providers kind of get on the same page as Zoom has, where in a side of a Zoom room, I can join a Teams meeting. I can also join a Google Meet. I can join those other platforms
Hmm.
without going outside of my platform to do it.
Yep. 100%, 100%. And it is so important, especially just for that. I think, because I always come back to the user, right? And I would think
Yes. And
too.
the goal with the users, man, it has to be easy,
Hmm.
because we're not dealing with that, and that's probably one of the biggest points I try to make in my world. It's, we're not dealing with people all the time that are AV people. We need them to be
100%.
scientists. We need them to be teachers. We need them to do their thing, and we really need that AV piece to almost just be natural,
Yeah. 100%.
so they can
100%.
just use it and not ask any questions on how.
Yeah. One of the things that I've said, and I said to my team, is we're kind of working on this, because they said, we are working on, and I've got, Adeline on my team, who's great faculty trainer and all that, and she's going to do it. She does amazing stuff with prepping. But I always say, her focus should be helping getting training materials for our student workers who are supporting and our team, not necessarily having to focus on training the faculty. Because if someone needs training to use a room, we didn't design it right. Right? You should be able to walk in and be very self-evident, or have the room work for you, and
Yes,
not need to call to wonder how to use it. Right? I
right.
mean, like the thing that I've always said is, when you buy an iPhone, guess what it doesn't come with? A user manual.
Yeah,
And
not a one.
that is on purpose. You should be able to pick it up and know how to do it, and it works you through to becoming a user. And there's like that same philosophy, I think, is really important for us. And it like leads me to my biggest pet peeve. When I walk into rooms, and integrators love doing this. Why? Because they can charge more for programming time. You walk into a room and you look at the touch panel, and every single thing the system can do has a button.
Mm,
I hate that. Okay. I'm never changing resolution. I'm never moving. Like, there's certain, what do I want a projector to do? I'm going to turn it on and turn it off. That's it. I don't care if the projector can do 85 different things. All I'm going to do is turn it on and turn it off. And that's the only button I need.
yeah, and all of that extra, if you want it on the control, should be in submenus all day.
Mm-hmm. 100%. And I think that's a big shift of, also with us, and I look at our industry, years ago. I mean, even going back to live, right? Like we have these large soundboards, light boards, billions of buttons. Well, that's okay because we're the trained professionals, the only one who are going to use that. But when you go to a
Right.
classroom situation, we aren't the user, right? Our industry sees us as end users, but we're actually not. We are
Right.
an intermediary between the end user, right? And I think that that's what becomes important to be able to kind of make those spaces usable for that reason.
And make them as easy to use, because if it's difficult, then they don't use it, and then that ends up being an even bigger problem.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. And the next thing you know, you put all this great technology in and they're sitting there just using the whiteboard, chalkboard. And you're like, why are you doing this? Because they're like, well, I tried it twice. It never worked. I couldn't get it to do it. And then, they're not going to call us. They're not going to say anything. They're just going to be frustrated and go, AV team sucks. Right. I mean, right. I mean, let's be honest.
That's the most frustrating statement that I hear on a day basis. It's never worked.
Mm-hmm.
And I just go, man, if you only knew what you were saying when you say that out loud.
Yes.
It's like, I really checked and made sure that was working last week.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And I think that it's getting that disconnect, right? Because you're right. And we always know, I mean, we know most of the time it's user error. Okay. We know that. We know, but also some of that, how much of it is user error, but also how much of it it really does fall on us by not doing the proper finding out and follow up and going, okay, where
Right.
is your solution? Where is your problem? And sometimes it's as simple as like, heck, every time I plug my laptop in, my PowerPoint goes to the wrong format. Oh, you mean so you just have to do Control P and switch it? But they don't know that, so they get
Right,
frustrated that
because that's
everything
not
goes.
natural.
Exactly. They just expect they plug it in. They should see the same thing as when they're working on it at home and it's plugged in. Well, their home setting is already recognizing their thing and they have it set up
Right.
that way. The classroom. And then so just saying, hey, you know what? Let me meet you next class. I'm going to set it right.
Right.
And guess what? Our computers are smart enough now to realize the next time it plugs in this system, it's going to do it the same way.
And it'll remember. It's like, yay.
And I think, but it's that disconnect. And like you said, it never worked. Well, no, it never worked. And who's it? Craig Shibley does this. Well, it never worked for you. All right. Because if it never worked, I'd be getting a call every hour at the start of every class. Right. Because not everyone is going to say, that it didn't work. Right. I mean, not everyone's going to just ignore it. Right. And someone's going to be the one. So, all right. So a question.
I'm just always glad when they actually report. And that is, for me, I'm like, hey, thanks for reporting that. We'll get it fixed as soon as possible.
Yep. Well, it's my line I use all the time is I can't fix problems I don't know about. Right.
Yes. The unknown is always tough.
Yep. 100%. So it made me think of something as we were here. Maybe a difference because your user base, and maybe I'm wrong. You can correct me if I'm wrong.
Yep.
Like if I look at, say, take where I'm at, 45,000 students, 15,000 faculty, it's actually probably, even at those numbers, it's probably easier for me to dictate a standard. Like you're going to use Zoom, you're going to use this laptop, you're going to do this, because I can't afford for too many different things. Plus, it ends up with the budget that I can provide people with. Here's the Dell version of blah. You get to pick Dell version of this or Apple version of this. Which one do you want? And all the rooms are set to work like that. And that's what you get. But with I think more at the community level, you probably have more adjuncts who probably have their own laptops, don't get that funding. Some might be older or newer. You probably get different faculty, some that are much more tech savvy, some that have never. And now you have to create something that works for all of that, which actually is probably much more of a problem than I have.
Right. Like because we were looking at moving mostly to Zoom rooms, we started to have to look at do we check out, do we assign laptops to part-time people? Because if we remove the computer from the classroom, not having a standard computer sitting in every classroom, which that's my goal, is to not really have the computer in there, because everybody's walking around with their computer anyway. It's fine.
Yep. +1. I totally agree.
Bring it from your office, roll into the meeting. That way you always have your stuff and it's right there. You have it. But, when you start talking about getting stuff, we started looking at things like, how do we check those in and out? How are we responsible for that? And man, I don't know if I want to get into the logistics of all of that mess.
Well, and it is a challenge, right? And and rightly so. I mean, people say, "Hey, if I'm here as an adjunct, I'm getting $24 an hour or whatever to teach this. This is like I can't be
Right,
going made to go and buy a $1,500 MacBook Pro. I'm going to use what I got, and so I definitely see that and see the challenges that I wouldn't want that headache.
right. It's like, what do you do? Do they come in and just use equipment that belongs to us for, just that classroom time? And then, what happens if they have to be offsite? All of those little questions that come up, and you want consistency.
Mm-hmm. All right, so where do you land on it? You said how do you do it? So where you leaning?
Hey, yeah, we're in the air right now. We haven't really made
Mm-hmm.
that decision as far as how that goes, but I'm sure we'll come to a decision. You know how fun that is in education.
As things move at the speed of higher ed, and
Hey,
once you understand what that means, the
you
speed of
know,
higher ed.
yep, we aren't mad at it. It's just so there's some things that you have to deal with that you go, okay, that's how this process works. That's
Mm-hmm.
awesome.
Yep, yep. Well, and that is the reality of it, like, and we are long. I mean, we're long buying processes. We're long planning processes. It's hard to shift on a dime. The pandemic obviously helped us get a "see, I told you so," but that doesn't
Right,
happen every
but I
other
also see the advantage to that. You're a lot more careful about um, the things that you choose,
day. Mm-hmm.
because you know that those things are going to need to do exactly what you intend them to do.
Yep, 100%.
Because otherwise, then it's just you're going back and you're fighting that game the entire time. And
Yep,
I
yep,
love working with our administrative people just because, man, it's tough sometimes. I know that they got stuff that they're dealing with.
yep. Well, and to me, this is where things like uh, I just totally blanked. Like the HETMA approved program to me comes
Uh-huh.
in, especially for, like because we do things in scale, we can't afford to mess up our choices, right? And like you said,
Right.
I mean, I'm in a school, when I walk into UCLA, I kid you not, there are rooms that have not been upgraded since 1994.
Oh, wow.
Yes, our average is 2006. That's how much tech debt we have here. Also, why they brought me in to do this thing. And we are going to we're going to talk about a shift. But what's interesting, like if you look at that way, is going, now I'm going to end up doing a full rip out and a full replace. Guess what I can't do? I can't mess it up and go to my administration. They've approved X million dollars to say,
Mhm.
here, you're going to go do this. I can't put in something and then go, oh, maybe I should have done this other one because this projector
Right.
model wasn't the right one, or this thing controls it wasn't the right one. I need a few million more dollars to go back to those 400 spaces and redo that again. I can't do that. So
Yeah,
that's
because those monies are no longer available.
yeah.
And
And
and the new monies, because like you're saying, if you got that deficit since '06 or whatever, like, hey, that money's not coming for another 10 years.
yep. And so I think that's where it's so important to, like have things. And I think it goes right back to our, with the community, right? Talking to the community, talking to what people have done. Where have you, when the others who have gone through this, and find those new devices that might be, like, I don't want to say bleeding edge, cutting edge, but you know what? If I'm not going to get a budget again for another 6 to 10 years, maybe I need to go with something like that and let everything fill in so I'm not, as soon as I put it in, already end of life.
Well,
Right.
and a question for you, are you seeing, like, because of the speed of change that's happening in technology, are you seeing any like budgetary like thought processes that are coming across with, hey, now that we see that technology and with AI coming and all of those things, um, what's the chase? I guess that's the
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. But I also think it works in our favor. So when you say what changes I'm seeing, and again, I might be an anomaly, right? Again, if you kind of look at it, um, you look at where are there economies of scale, right? Do
hmm
you need when you have, I think we have just under 800 and something total classrooms. That doesn't even count the labs and all that stuff. Let's just take
Wow.
something they just call a learning space, right?
See,
But
see,
I,
for me, your situation is 8x.
yeah, but that said, they don't all fall because there are other departments. They're independent. I'm central. I don't have this, but are there places like why do we need to have 5 different Panopto accounts? Why do we need to have so many different this? Why do we have different control systems? Why can't we consolidate? So what happens when you have things like this that go on is the school says, I'll actually prefer to invest in this large upgrade of systems, knowing that if we can pull everybody under it, we can save money across the board. And I'm not having to do $1 million project here to upgrade this building and $1 million project here to upgrade this. But I can go, all right, if and this is what I told them. I know it's a crazy thing to say, but wouldn't you rather give me $20 million to solve everyone's problem than spend $25 million and still have everyone have their own problems,
That
right?
makes total sense.
Right. And that's kind of the now it's weird when you're in a like hiring freezes and spending
Mhm.
freezes and no one knows where funding is coming from to say and throw out numbers like that, but you go, but we have to look at this in 10-year terms, not
Right.
today terms. And those are the things where there become economies of scale. Absolutely.
Well, and just the convenience of repairs
Hmm.
when most of your systems are similar, like, and when you can have a kind of a standard, I would say, but when you're doing when your rooms are at least 10 to 15, something, when you have a 10 or 15 year scale on your rooms there, it's hard for them all to have the same things. It's hard for
Hmm.
them to be interchangeable, but you try to get it all down to some kind of standard so that that if room A goes down, it's okay because room B is available and they can get in there.
100%. 100%. That there's so many things, and there's just so many advantages to that and having that. And I think again, that's where like I think if I go, those are one of the difficulties for me, but probably we become advantages for you because you're more in touch
Right.
with that community is where I get stepped out. All right. Well, we have to switch to the rapid round. We're going. I
Okay.
went longer, so rapid round.
Look at that.
As we transition, so rapid round. These are just some fun questions that have no right or wrong answer, unless I have an opinion of my own, in which case you might have a wrong answer. Um, and so everybody gets the same first question, and that is so colleges are all about tradition. So, what is your favorite college tradition?
Bonfires.
Bonfire. Okay, please tell.
I've never really been involved. I just know that I've seen them a lot, and I think that it's really interesting that people get together and build these really crazy monstrosities. Like, they got in trouble down in Texas A&M for doing that business, but
Yeah, they got rid of it,
hey,
right?
yeah,
Yeah.
but probably bonfires because, man, it's one of those things where they get out, they do and it's just, I don't know, brutal.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. No, I get it. Yeah, yeah. I remember A&M. I think they were serious. I think they have a death or something like that in theirs,
I
or it
think so.
collapsed or something.
Oops.
Maybe.
Yeah, I think
Um,
so.
but no, even at SC when I was an undergrad, we used to do that on during Troy week between the week rivalry week, and they'd do a big bonfire thing and like I remember, and I was the VP of my fraternity that year. So I got to be one of the people that got to light it. So that was pretty
Ooh,
cool. Yeah,
nice.
that was fun. All right. I like it. That's a good one. That's a good one. I will give full credit for that because also it brings back
Nice.
memories of me. So I love it. All right. The next thing I love to talk about is food. So, I mean, you're in Texas. And how far outside of Dallas are you?
I'm in the last stop on Central Expressway before you get to Oklahoma.
Okay. So, still a bit up there. So, a little fun fact. I lived in Grapevine, South Lake, just north of
Oh,
Dallas
right
for
on.
a while. So I was there on a project at Grapevine Mills.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
that's our that's my nearest IMAX, so totally familiar.
there you go. See, yeah, my daughter was born right there at the Baylor Hospital in Grapevine. So there we go. So I love food. When I come visit, where are you taking me? What are we eating? What are we drinking?
Ooh, I would take definitely to the egg place downtown.
The
I know
egg
that
plant.
sounds weird, right? It's called, man, I'm trying to think of the name of it. Oh, it's hurting my face right now. Matter of fact, they were just on Shark Tank like the other night and got a big win thing. It's a small like cocktail bar. It's called the Deviled
Okay.
Egg Company. That's what
The
it's called.
Deviled Egg Company.
Yes.
I think I heard
And
about that. And they
and
do
and
like
and they do deviled eggs, these weird little deviled eggs, but it's a martini bar.
I have heard about that. Okay,
Yeah.
ultimate win. And is that's in Denison?
Yes. It's in an
Oh,
old bank.
okay, that's pretty rad. All
Yeah,
right.
matter of fact, they have some seating inside there that is in the old vault.
I love that. I
Yeah, it's
love
a cool little
okay.
place.
All right. All right. That's see, there we go. And who would think there'd be a stop like that as you're
Mm,
driving one end of the Red River rivalry to the other, right?
yeah.
All right. Okay. That I like. That I like. All right. Next rapid round. You said all right. So you went with you chose Zoom. So I just make so I make these up as I go along. All right. So
Awesome.
you said Zoom. If rank all of them, Zoom, Teams, Google Meet, etc., in 1, 2, 3 order.
I would say Zoom's number one for me. Teams are probably number two, with Meet and the other ones falling after that.
Yeah. In your 5-year prediction, where you think AV will be? What's going to be the key thing?
LED walls that aren't really LED walls, like it'll be some kind of, it'll be almost liquid glass probably, where we
Yep.
just have literally glass walls popping up and those being screens.
Love it. Yep. Totally agree. Great answer. I love, and by the
I've
way,
already seen some of it, which is awesome.
I love transparent LED. I haven't had a really good opportunity to put it in yet. But with Melise doing now taking over our digital signage group, I'm excited what she's going to do. I love transparent LED. I love it. Great answer, and I believe it's correct. There's a lot of use cases for it because you could smack it on anything.
Man, I'm excited that you have a digital signage group.
Yeah. Um, Yeah, there is that. And they're a great team. They just came. She just recruited them. So, but again, scale,
Awesome.
big.
Oh man. Yeah, y'all are
Scale.
doing way more with signs than I ever thought about.
Little things. All right, I love it. I love it. AI's impact to higher ed, is it big, small, overrated, underrated? Be ready for it. Where do you stand?
Impact? No idea. However, I say it's a tool. It's a new tool for the toolbox, and everybody just needs to attack it that way,
Mm-hmm.
because it's not like it's going to be any different than any other tool that we've gotten over the last, 20 years. It's just new. People were weird about Google when, you know, libraries started having to, oh, people don't use us for search as much anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, we're going to be different, and it's okay.
Yep. 100%. All right. I like it. I like it. Um,
Unless, of course, you want to go back to using the card catalog.
oh Lordy. Oh, so some of us actually, we did our education the tough way. We sure did, and
Yeah.
we made it through. All right, last question, last rapid round. What are you looking forward to most at InfoComm?
Actually getting to see the new things. That's always the fun part about InfoComm. And man, being able to actually see faces
Mm-hmm.
that have been in a lot of these little um, Zoom type and podcast type meetings that we've been having, man. It's always cool to get in front of people.
Yep. 100%. Seeing people is the number one reason. It's all about our relationships. It goes right back to what you started and kind of set up first. So, yeah, I'm not a big, I'm not a big gear person. I don't actually do booth tours. I don't visit any booths, but I work the HETMA booth. So there you go. And I make people come to me.
And hey, I'm actually looking forward to helping set up the HETMA booth. So I'm excited about that part.
It's a good
I
time.
like that build. It's fun.
Yeah, it is fun. Let me tell you, it's it's a unique experience that not many people get. In other words, like the community build of us coming together and doing it,
Yes.
knowing so tell me, I love it because if you look at all the other booth builds, right, they're
Mm,
all professional people who are just brought in, and that's what they do. They just put the booth together with two
right.
workers from the company, and they do this, and it's just But we're the only ones that basically throw a party, for lack of better words, doing it, even though it's
Right.
not a party. It's, us coming together and doing it. But it's like you feel it's a tangible way to give to our vertical and to give and serve.
Yes.
Right. And absolutely. I love it. Love it. Great answer. Okay. Final rapid round thing, which isn't necessarily so rapid. You get 1 minute. So this is the last thing I always end with.
Okay.
Um, 1 minute to pretend this show is yours. If you had your own podcast, do whatever and you could talk about any topic on earth. It doesn't matter. At UCC, I've had some crazy things that have come out. You get 1 minute to talk about anything you want. The show is yours. Your time starts now.
Okay. I will say that I would talk about, let's see, right now it's podcast time, and my podcast would be about the Marvel universe and how they're putting out all these shows and all these movies, and that's fun. But lately, they've been doing a few things where making us all feel like we are having to do homework instead of just watch movies. And man, I would let them hear about that business.
All right, doing homework. I watched this. I saw this Instagram reel. I like that, where it was like someone put together, like, it raced them and who were the fastest, like, DC Marvel, like, characters. It was like an 8 minute video, and I was way too much into it than I should have been, because I like literally, because every character like, oh, this fast, and all of a sudden you got the ones who could fly. And I'm going, and
Right.
it's like, okay, but it's got to be Flash, right? And that wasn't even in it. But anyway, that was my opinion. All right. Last question. I am going to put your LinkedIn in the show notes
Okay.
of this, but if anyone wants to further connect with you, how could they do that?
Any socials? I'm at James Scoggins, so we're good.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much for joining me today. This was quite the pleasure. So everybody, as always, make sure you follow James. Make sure you connect, and hopefully you enjoyed this episode. I know I did. As always, you can find me at Josiah Way on all the socials, kind Higher Ed AV at Higher Ed AV on all the socials, and HETMA at HETMA_org on all of the socials and the community. Remember, you only got 2 more weeks, between 3 weeks, I guess, from when you're hearing this, to sign up for the HETMA Education Summit at Infocom. Stop by the booth, 4887. And as always, all the opinions expressed here are not necessarily those of our respective institutions, sponsors of the show, or really anybody who would want to sue us. Okay, that's how it goes. So don't sue us. And as always, hopefully you enjoyed this show. If you didn't, there might be better opinions next time.